All right. Good morning. It is, what day is today? Sunday, March 24th at 8:41 a.m. And I'm on 2 hours of sleep. We've got a new puppy, Willow. She's beautiful, but she's a handful and a biter. Well, a biter in a good way, a cute way. Anyways, it's a lot. Today, I have a new friend joining me. Her name is, actually, I'm going to get her to say her name. So it's either Katharina or Katharina. Miriam. I met her through Leanne Wolf's mentorship group, a human design group that I've been part of for a couple of months now. And I've made some new and amazing friends there, and the conversation there is always very interesting. And yeah, from those connections, I just want to talk with each person individually. And so we're starting right now with Katharina. So let's bring her on.
Hi.
Hello. Oops, that's better. That's what I mean to do. How are you doing this morning?
So for me, it's in the evening,
Okay.
actually, because I'm in Germany. So it's 4:40 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm doing good so far. I'm just floating through the day, basically.
Nice. So we met through Leanne's mentorship group. I think even in the conversation, it was just you were talking about being ready to share and I don't know, put yourself out there as a professional with your skills and talents.
Yeah.
And in my typical casual way, I'm just like, hey, why don't you just come and like take it for a spin on my podcast, which is got to be the most casual thing ever. Because even as I'm sitting here, I'm like trying to find every angle not to edit. So it really is going to be casual. So beware. Anyways, how would you please introduce yourself professionally? What is your background? What is your interest and why are you doing it?
Yeah. Okay. So my background is actually in psychology. So I studied psychology and I did a yoga teacher training and a human design training, like during that study. So I've always been so interested in learning new things. And psychology was a little too boring for me, like just one level of looking at things. And I needed the body part as well. So that's why I did yoga. And that's also the start of my spiritual journey in a deeper way. But I have always been interested in astrology and mythology.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I was 10, I read Greek myths about the gods and goddesses, and I studied astrology when I was a child. And then I lost it because of anorexia, actually. So I had a pretty long phase of eating disorder behavior. And that's where my motivation comes from, or came from, to study psychology and to be a role model for people, to show that it's actually possible to heal from such a thing as anorexia, where most people say, well, that's uncurable. And I'm the living example for the opposite. So, and that's always the motivation behind what I do. So I'm an alchemist. Like you can also see that in my human design chart. Actually, I have the gate of alchemy in the gene keys. That's gate 47. And in human design, it's called oppression. And for me, it's like I'm being oppressed by my own trauma, like attachment trauma or anorexia or some kind of painful life experience. And then I take that and I feel my way through it. And then I kind of get the wisdom from it that I want to share with other people. And right now, what I specialize in is partnership and all things attachment, trauma, nervous system health from a human design and astrology and gene keys perspective. So I have a lot of interests that I'm merging together and bringing into this world to help people firstly love themselves and also love each other, which is like the thing we long for the most, and it's actually the most difficult thing to do in this world because we don't learn how to love each other truly. Like we
Hmm.
learn how to have needs, and we see all those movies, and we don't really learn how to communicate, how to alchemize our feelings, how to sit with painful experiences and all those things. So that's what I'm specializing in. And
Wow.
I also, yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna. I mean, now I know why we're connecting. Like a lot of this stuff I have been doing in the background clumsily, like not with any kind of focus, just kind of either high on edibles and cranking out a metaphysical book and making connections, but not having some sort of focus on it. It
Mhm.
was just kind of finding me. So yeah, I'll have lots of questions for you today and seeking clarity. So cool. But I just spoke. I think I cut you off there. What else were you going to say?
I also wanted to say that a level of, how do I say this? Like I'm discovering new things and talents about me right now where I realize that I'm very sensitive to other people's emotions and also to other people's thoughts. So I can spend a few hours with someone and I know their limiting beliefs and their suppressed feelings, and I see a lot of things. And that's this energetic level that I'm using to see through the things that people kind of put up as a mask, and they don't do it consciously. So they actually believe themselves when they say certain things or believe certain things. And I can see kind of through that and help people find the deepest truth of the moment right now. And what I'm experimenting with is kind of directing the energy within myself. So dancing or moving energy in my body or outside of my body to make shifts in another person. Like there were some experiences where I realized, okay, when I change what I am feeling in my interacting with other people, they change too.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel an emotion or I think a limiting belief that someone has, if I kind of let that flow through me and change it within myself, it changes for the other person as well. Of course, that's not very self-empowering to do that for another person. So I'm kind of I'm integrating that into my practice right now to teach people how to do this themselves, like um, how to connect to a limiting belief and pull that into the body and into the energetic field as well, and to change it there because that's so much more easy than to try to find counter arguments for a belief, for example. And you can heal trauma emotions from the past that you kind of attach to because it's safe, um, by moving them through the body or in the energetic field. So that's the interconnectedness of all those different levels of existence that we have as human beings.
Hmm. Cool. Okay, I want to talk. I'm not sure where to go with this, but so much of that I want to talk about. Should we look at your body graph and maybe have you keynote yourself? Because when you were talking, I was already looking at like the similarities. I find
Mhm.
patterns, and so like things you were saying, I'm like, oh yeah, ding, ding, ding. Okay, so let me
Yeah.
get the right screen here. It's that one. And you can I want you to let me know that you can see it properly.
Yes, I
Good.
can.
Okay. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's you. Actually, I'll scroll up a bit. Nope. Sorry, this side. There we go. So in that context of how your these interactions that you're having, right, where you're able to empower people by having the energy, you feel it for them. Like you basically, I think what you said is you can feel it for them and actually energetically help them change it. but then it's not empowering for them because they didn't. So yeah, walk us through that. Maybe from a body graph perspective,
Mhm.
that openness around the solar plexus and the head and the ajna and the ego, we
Yeah.
share. so, uh, so that's where I think most of this is coming from. I'm
Mhm.
assuming, and then you're not a sphinx, but you have a lot of the gates of a sphinx with your G there too. So it's
Yeah.
like even a sphinxy similarity there, right? And I've never
Mhm.
really thought about that until when you were talking through that, and then I kind of
Oh,
noticed that you're just missing the 7, right?
yeah,
So never really
true.
thought about the makeup on the body graph. So,
Mhm.
anyways, I'm going to stop talking again. Why don't you describe your design, your openness, which I'm assuming is a
Mhm.
lot of where this comes from, and then if you can,
Yeah.
yeah, talk about how you do it professionally or what you do. Yeah, I'm going to stop talking and sip up my coffee.
Okay. So what you can see is, first of all, this completely open solar plexus center, which allows me to essentially feel everything that other people are feeling. And I don't even have to be in their aura. Like, it's also something that I can feel from a distance. I also feel a lot of emotional transits, like when the moon is in Cancer or Scorpio or Pisces. I I'm very emotional during those times.
Hmm.
And
Sorry,
so what that
can I stop you there? Like, why during those time periods? What is it? Is that because those are tied to the solar plexus, or is it the gates leading towards it are in those? Okay, that's what it is.
so yeah, um yes and no. Pisces, so the most of the gates in the solar plexus are Pisces gates.
Hmm.
All of them except for the 6, which is a Virgo gate, and the 30 and the 49. Those are both Aquarius gates. But the rest of them are all Pisces gates. So when the moon is in Pisces, it activates that gate 37, and that connects to my gate 40, and then my ego and my solar plexus get defined. And that's, from a human design perspective, where that heightened emotionality would come from. And with Scorpio, actually, Scorpio transits are very comforting for me, or comfortable, because I have my ascendant there and I have my Mercury there. So that's something that I'm I'm very familiar with that energy. Like, it's something that I can just let move through me. But when the moon is in Cancer, I think it's not, like, I'm sure you can find it in my body graph. But it's also that I have my natal moon in Capricorn, which is opposite to Cancer. So Cancer energy is something that am very, like, it's uncomfortable for me. And I think most people are more sensitive when the moon is in Cancer. Like, that's just the collective energy somehow. Although most Cancer gates are actually in the throat, and yeah, in the throat,
Hmm.
which is interesting. Um, I think.
I'll
So
be
yeah.
honest with you, my weakness still is anything to do with astrology or mythology and all that stuff. It's actually I want to know more, and I need to
Mhm.
find that can help me with that. But just as you talk about some of that stuff, my brain goes kind of Charlie Brown teacher. I don't know if you remember Charlie Brown, but there was, anyways. You probably don't actually. You're too young. But my brain is like, what is she talking about? I wish I understood. But cool. So you can feel the energies of people in it, but it's enhanced during certain periods that are effectively predictable because you could look at
Yeah. Mhm.
transits, right? So
Mhm.
neat. Okay, keep
Yes.
going.
And so, when I think a good example for this emotional openness is that when I have a call with a client, I feel their emotions at least 1 hour before the call starts. So I know what they're feeling. I can get into the energy that they're in, and that's like a preparation for that call that we're going to have then. And then, if I feel those feelings, I can direct the conversation there, and I can say, hey, I'm feeling this sadness or anger or stress or any of those feelings. And we can dive in straightly into what's present right now for this person in this moment in time. And I
Mm,
think that's a huge benefit to support people in especially emotional matters. And I also had a situation once where I was hosting a retreat and there was a couple there and they had a few very painful experiences together where there was attachment trauma coming up and they were hurting each other, although there was so much love. And then during that retreat they were talking about this and I could feel one of them dissociating and the other one being secretly or secretively
secret,
angry.
yeah, secretively. I know what you mean. Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They weren't showing it, but you could tell. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Greatly.
uh, and that's amazing for doing couples counseling and any of those things because I can just say, hey, I can feel your anger and it's so understandable that you're angry and then I can kind of be I can mediate between them. And I can say, hey, you're feeling this, you're feeling this, you have this attachment trauma background, you have this attachment trauma background, and these attachment styles interact in very interesting ways very often. Like one typical example would be anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. And the anxious person has a lot of criticism and feels unsafe, and then they kind of get angry and yeah, um, say certain things that come across for the avoidant as if they are doing essentially everything wrong, even if the other person just expresses a need or a desire that they have. And if I know that, and if I like, I know a lot about attachment trauma from my personal experience and also this psychology university experience. And so then I can explain why they are feeling what they are feeling, and I can kind of help them tell the story about this. And you can see this in my body graph in gate 47, which takes all of these different um, strings of stories and kind of puts them together so it's coherent.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this channel 1333,
Mm-hmm.
both in third lines.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that means I've been through a lot of experiences and I can help them by telling them about my life or what I have observed in other people, and so that's relatable,
Mm-hmm.
and that also makes it kind of okay to be in the situation and to feel those things. So that's a very important channel for me. I love this channel.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I share the 13.3. That's my personality son.
Ah,
So
wow.
yeah, so I know exactly what you mean. And I know I can hold court if I'm invited to share an experience.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
if I just pause and think about, is this the right time? And then it just comes out, and it's like it's a story. It's like when I fucked up 10 years ago, but because I can say it like that, um, they hear it. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm like throwing myself like, hey, you should do this. Nothing. Like I've actually experienced it where I can tell energetically they're not even listening. Like they're just not
Hmm.
hearing. But if I'm invited, it's a tractor beam, and the message gets delivered. In my case,
Hmm.
generally sloppily, but it's endearing enough that they hear it, I guess.
Hmm.
So, yeah, super neat.
Hmm.
Um, it's neat that, so again, you're doing this in a professional setting and helping people. I'm doing it on a pickleball court where I can like pick people's energy apart and play them against each other. And so I'm actually experiencing this real time a couple of times a week. And so we play recreational pickleball. So recreational means you're just always switching partners. So the person that was
Ah.
my partner energetically with me is either really a really good partner or not, and it kind of is like what kind of mood they're in. Because I can
Mhm.
immediately feel like, oh, I'm feeling really competitive right now, or I really want to like smash the ball. And other times I'm like, oh, it's just floating around, and I'm like absorbing that from my partners. But then,
Mhm.
so they're my partner for 5 6 minutes, and then the next thing they're my opponent, and then it's just such a weird energy because for a second there we were like pals, and now this person's trying to kill me, and so it's really interesting to experience it real time now, and I think it is the maturity of my recognizing that that open solar plexus, like that's not me. That's just
Yeah.
coming at.
Mhm.
It's unreal. So it's cool to hear you using it professionally because I'm just using it for my own entertainment. So
Yeah.
um,
Maybe you're getting inspired now.
yeah, it's coming. The so like that 1333. So I do parlor tricks with people. Like anyone that I see is at 13, I just say like, you've ever been just standing at the supermarket and someone just comes up you've never met before and just starts telling you something that, and then they'll say, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Like it quite literally, they usually say that, right? I'm
Mhm.
assuming you absolutely experienced that based on your reaction, but
No. Actually, no, not
okay.
really. That's that's something that I'm very curious about. Like, why doesn't this happen to me? And maybe it's because I have the whole channel. I am also assuming that it might be that Venus in gate 40 in the second line. Like gate 40 is the gate of aloneness. And that second line is always projecting something out. And in this combination for me, it's projecting out that I don't like to be approached, even if I'm open to being approached. And I think that's something that's kind of in the way of that gate 13. So I have a lot of paradoxes in my body graph, a lot of
Yeah.
counterintuitive things, a lot of things where you think like, okay, this part of me wants to go in this direction, this part of me wants to go in the other direction, and there's another part that wants to go completely elsewhere. And I think that's also something that makes me so good at mediating for other people because I'm constantly doing this for myself internally.
Well, that's a pretty dramatic split too that you have, right? So a couple of things
Yeah.
that you said there. For one, your 2-4 profile, that 4 seems to be the right connections find you. So
Hmm.
maybe you're not to be bothered by people that just come along and dump on you at the supermarket. For some
Absolutely
reason,
not.
yeah, I think maybe with my design, and it could be the purple mohawk, they probably just assume that I'm uh, approachable. So I probably made myself a bit of a magnet for those experiences. Um,
Hmm.
so that's interesting.
Yeah,
Um, cool. Yeah, you got a big old open ego too. So
I
just
do.
that sporty there,
Hmm.
and then but the split, interesting.
The split is actually very interesting because for me, it's those two gates that bridge my split. So gate 14 and gate 34 are my Chiron gates. So I have my design Chiron in gate 14 and my personality Chiron in gate 34, which means as soon as someone bridges my split, I automatically have a Chiron something conjunction with them. So most relationships that bridge my split are uh, either traumatic or trauma healing, or I am the one who's doing the healing relationships.
Well, let's see where this goes because I bring that 3420 for you. So
Ah.
so
Yeah,
you're
well,
not split
we
energetically.
have a conversation about healing and my work in this field, so that it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Here, I'll put mine up here.
I actually
Mm-mm-mm.
never saw your body graph.
Oh, really? Oh, I know Lan likes to bring it up because I start talking and then she's like, look, see, this is where this is coming from. And I'm always like, oh, man. So,
Oh
so
wow,
right?
that's interesting.
Very open.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you and I share the 1941, I noticed as well.
Hmm.
Um, definitely a Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that for 3420, right? So, and what we were
Wow.
talking about, the 1333 or 13.3. So, yeah, I don't even know how to do a composite in this guy. I'm having some sync issues with Neutrino, so I just need to get that sorted. But new connection, select. Uh, Easier to spell your last name. Yes. Sean. So presumably you do a lot of connection charts in your work. Then I mean that's
Yeah.
quite often where you look, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just as an exercise, because we were just talking about that, um, what would you say about because like I spot because I can see patterns a lot now. I mean, I noticed the 1941 right away, the
Mm-hmm.
similarities. We got all that openness. Um,
I think I have to Twitter.
so I've got a defined route right now with by you being here,
Mm-hmm.
but I bridge your split too. So yeah, yeah, do your thing. Tell us about
Yeah, you
our
do both my
conversation.
split, and it's so spontaneous. So the first thing that come to that came to mind is that we have some compromise channels, and compromise channels are very interesting to me from an energetic lens. Like we have this channel 1-8,
Hmm.
and you have the whole channel, and I only have gate 1. So I mean, you invited me to come to your channel and have a conversation with you. And that's basically this gate 8 that sees what I can, um, what's the word in English? Um, what I can bring to the community. And you saw that in me and you invited me to your channel. So that's an expression of that channel that I'm seeing in our interaction.
The word I heard as you were saying it was contribute. You can
Yeah,
contribute or make a contribution.
exactly. Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we have the other compromise channel which is all of the channels that relate to gate 10.
Mm.
So you have the all of the integration, which is amazing. I know another person with all of those channels, and it's always like you are so in the now, and you pull me into the now as well. So my gate 10 as a hanging gate is very self-obsessive and very permitting as well. And with you, it just gets a whole other energy. Like it gets all of these connections, but it also gets overridden by your kind of behavior and your style of expressing
Mm.
yourself. So that's changing for me a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. I can feel it. Like I can tell energetically that I'm gonna lead a bit here still. Even though
Mhm.
I'm saying like, hey, talk, I kind of take over.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah, but
apologize for
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that to be guided into.
Well, and I've had a few people comment on the integration. Like I've been fighting that my whole life because of conditioning, like in the open ego, the open head, and the open ajna, and
Mhm.
trying to be something for everyone else. And it's recent weeks where it's like, no, that's never been right for me, and it was making me
Yeah.
sick, like physically.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
still learning to express that and let it out and not dull my shine for others because it's either
Yes.
intimidating for them, right? But it's
Yes.
so uncomfortable. It's so
Hmm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I hear that so often in the mentorship where you say how you downsize yourself to not trigger anyone. And I'm always so sad about that because I think it's beautiful and I think well, I love people who kind of provoke things and who are individual.
Mm.
And I also know this fear of triggering any emotion in someone. Like that's the undefined solar plexus. Like that's the essence. It's basically, oh, I'm so scared to activate any kind of emotion in you because I'm scared you will die. from that emotion, or you don't like me anymore, and then I'm all alone and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, so many things there. The alone,
Mhm.
and being comfortable with being alone, and something you said right at the beginning. Um, I have become. I've not only become comfortable with being alone. I actually prefer it for periods, which
Mhm.
is so new for me. Like I was always initiating a connection with someone just so I didn't have to sit and be alone. And I think it was the open head
Yeah.
nausea and having everyone else's thoughts swimming around in my head and trying to be valued by, just pleasing everyone but myself. So the self care is here.
Mhm.
The Through my experiences, I've looked in the term soulmate or twin flame, and every conclusion I come to is I'm my soulmate. I'm my own twin flame, and
Mhm.
if I do that, then I show up better for my partners and for everybody, and
Yeah.
that's where the outer authority. That's where the vibe comes from, and
Mhm.
it's so much nicer. But every single day, I have to go like, am I worthy of this? Should I self care? Right? Like just before
Yeah.
we met, I was feeling anxious. It was early in the morning, late night with the puppy. I was like, I just got to go like relax and meditate for 10 minutes, and
Mhm.
it was like climbing Mount Everest to go sit down and do that.
Yeah.
I was like, I
Sure.
can't do it. And meanwhile, I
Mhm.
know I love it. And after it was totally rewarding. But it was
Mhm.
so, every ounce of my being was resistant to it. And I,
Mhm.
and it makes me crazy. I don't understand why. Like if I could figure out why, that's like the final loop is making that okay. So, anyways, sorry.
So making what okay exactly?
Um, Well, the term immediately comes to mind is selfish. And to like selfish was always a bad
Oh.
word in our family.
Mhm.
Like it was akin
Mhm.
to murder, though
Mhm.
that's selfish. And so I had a hard time embracing self-care because it's too close to selfish, right?
Oh.
And
Oh,
I
I
do
get
know
that.
and understand the difference now,
Mhm.
but I feel the I feel it all the time. I feel someone looking at me going, well, that's selfish. And
Yeah.
re- when realizing that it's my job to actually kind of be selfish. That's
Yeah.
what so many people tell me is it's my job or it's my purpose. And then
Yeah.
others will want that for themselves. And so to embody that. But dude, it is
Exactly.
not easy. It is, I mean, I've come a long way and even as I say it, I can feel like the resistance, like
Absolutely. And
falling.
we could actually work directly with those emotions that you're experiencing right now.
Mhm.
Like there's an amazing woman who works with the nervous system a lot and also with these kinds of conditioning um, things. And she does practices like take any kind of situation like this. I want to do self care, but then I feel that I'm selfish and that I'm being judged and that I'm being excluded from my tribe because you have so much individual energy, but you also have three collective channels. So it's important for you to be heard and to be invited to share what you're experiencing or what you did experience or what you see about the future, and you also have this need to lead and to guide other
Mhm.
people with with that channel of leadership. So it's a very interesting dichotomy that you have there. And
Mhm.
what Ilan Stefani would do now is take this emotion and feel it and then shake your body, like shake and fight and like shake it off what you learned in your childhood and push it away and decide to not endure this any longer. Like it's a very highly energetic work where you take up the space within yourself so nobody else can live there anymore. Like expanding from within to the outside so nobody can enter into your energy field and you also push that conditioning out of your field.
It's a beautiful summary of kind of where my head's been at, but I needed someone to say it to me. So I would go to bed completely energetically smothered. Other
Mhm.
people's stuff was on me.
Mhm.
And I got introduced to like smudging, like just basically using like actual sage,
Mm.
and I could actually feel at times if I did that that I would be kind of be clean. It's back to me. But I live in a
Mhm.
home where my wife has a very strong sense of smell. She's smell cognition even, and so she doesn't like the
Ah.
smell of sage. And even
Mhm.
what I've read about sage is sage actually changes the materials in the air. That's why it smells bad. Is it's actually like deodorant for the air or something, right? Like it's just like cleaning. So it's like that got that
Yeah.
funk, right?
Mhm.
So I can't sage in the house without it being a bit of conflict.
Mhm.
And so I'm always trying to find new tools. So I found a meditation that helps me do it energetically through the chakras.
Mhm.
And then I got interested into sound and tuning forks. And so just last week, a woman was here that delivered this amazing tuning fork overview.
Mhm.
And she had the Ohm tuning fork, which is basically auditory sage. So you just hit this thing, and it's the highest pitched thing. You don't want to like sit there with it, but I can feel it like doing its job in the air.
Mhm.
And so now I'm really focusing on clearing that stuff out so that I can go to bed, have my dream state
Mhm.
quietly, and then
Mhm.
fire this whole machine up again in the morning because
Yeah.
it's, and I've got gate 57, which I believe is the fear of tomorrow.
Mhm.
So even as I talk through this, I'm like, and the clearing the energy thing, even last night, I didn't do it. Like I forget. I just have terrible habits. But I even just talking this through, I know that would have totally helped if I
Mhm.
just because I'm afraid of what tomorrow will bring, but it's because I'm carrying everyone energetically in me. So I also love drumming, but
Mhm.
as you were talking about that, I when you're like shaking it off, I don't drum for myself. I like to perform live. So I
Mhm.
had lost the joy of practicing. I'd lost the joy of just playing for myself. And it was tied to a trauma when I was like 12 or 13, and I've stepped through that and I see it, but I can still even feel the energetics of that. So thank you for the reminder because basically I need to clean the decks at night, and I need to I need to get back to playing my drums because it actually allows me to move my body. I've had so many
Mhm.
people say, "Oh, you're so lucky you play the drums. You must be able to get rid of your frustrations." And my answer was always, "Nope, I don't do that." Like I've never felt the need to do that. But obviously, I
Mhm.
was just blocked up and I wasn't giving myself permission to play. So cool.
Would you like to know what I'm thinking right now? Like two
Sure.
things.
Hmm.
First of all, you said you find it easier to drum for other people. So what I was thinking is maybe you could just record yourself while doing it, and you don't even have to upload it, but you could, and you could also just put the camera there and pretend to play for others. And that's something that I do sometimes, like when I do frequency dancing or yoga or some of those things. I'm so much more disciplined when
Hmm.
I imagine being watched. So I just record myself.
Okay, super interesting that too. So I have an app called you're probably aware of it, I'm guessing. Oh no, it's on my iPad. Anyways, it's kind of an astrology based app about energetics and stuff. And yesterday it told me that I gotta get over this theme of needing to be adored. And I hadn't seen that before, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. So just even like the thought of sitting down and play my drums, but pretending there's an audience they don't need to ever see the light of day. But yeah, dude, it's so interesting. I do occasionally drum and just stream it live to YouTube,
Oh.
and
Mhm.
I like the pressure of it. Like I find I just play a little bit better than if I was
Mhm.
just winging it.
Mhm.
But even as you say that, like all humility aside, I even when I'm playing pickleball, I'm kind of hoping that people are watching my cool moves. Right? It's like
Yeah.
there's just something in me where it's
Yeah.
like, is anyone seeing this? I'm amazing.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, you have so much Leo in your chart, like gate 33, 3. Blah. is a Leo gate. Gate 31 as well. And Leo just needs to be seen and admired, and it's nourishing
Mm-hmm.
for those gates. And I mean, there's a difference between wanting admiration and wanting to be seen in what you like to do, like what you're um, satisfied by,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to be adored for something that you are not, and doing stuff only so that other people can admire you. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't need to be admired. I don't need to leave a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Like for my tortured life. Like it's
Yeah.
sort of like,
And yeah.
I've earned that, but then it feels selfish to want that because I know that lots of people have suffered through lots of things, and I
And I
can.
feel the sadness when you're saying that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, enough about me. What about you? So, um, tell me about the 19. Because I had a epiphany yesterday about it that came
Mm-hmm.
back, but I'd like to hear what you've got to say. And then, because that 19, there's so many things to that.
Mm-hmm. Which planet is it activated by for you? Like, I
For
don't see it
me,
in
for me,
my
it's what is that guy?
the North Node.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have opposite nodes. That's interesting. That's very
Oh
interesting.
yeah,
Like,
there you
that's
go.
very fascinating. Yeah.
Well, and our 33s are opposite too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You have it
because
north.
the
You have
nodes
it
are
north.
always opposite from each other. So if you have the 33 as one of your nodes, you also have the 19 because they are programming partners.
Oh, okay. All right.
And if we have those opposite, that just means that what I do inherently is something that you are learning as a consciousness, and what you are doing inherently is something that I am growing into. So that's a very beautiful energy exchange because we can kind of see where we're going.
Mm-hmm. So 19 is where I'm going. 33 is kind of what I'm leaving, right? And 33
Mm-hmm.
is what you're leaving. Okay. So what does that mean?
So for me, or you asked about gate 19, and for me, like, it's the gate of approach. And I'm thinking a lot about that phrase. Like, what does this keynote mean of approach? Like, does it mean I am the one approaching, or am I being approached by others? And then when we think about the need aspect of this gate, like gate 19 is all about needing something for the tribe to survive. So it's a
Mhm.
tribal gate. It's part of the tribal circuitry. And it's all about bringing the resources to the tribe so that Gate 49 can establish its principles and bring forth the necessary revolution for the tribe. And Gate 19 is this part of feeling what everyone needs in very different ways, depending on the line that is activated. And for me, it's a little different because it's my, I have it in the sixth line
Mhm.
and also in line 3. So I have my Uranus there as well. Um, so I always have this interplay between the third line and the one and line 6. So I'm always being torn between kind of pulling out and being by myself, which is line 6. So that's the recluse, which sits on the mountain and needs to be approached and actively sought out so that it can see that it's really needed, and then it gives away its resources. And then I have this third line that's always experimenting with, well, who deserves to have these resources and who do I need to form connections with so that I can have the resources to then give to other people. So that's an ongoing experiment for me. And that's one of those paradoxes within me because my fourth line wants this friendship and wants to serve and wants to have these connections just because it feels nice to have a family. And it's also opportunistic. And gate 19 and the third line needs to have the right people who have the resources. So it
Hmm.
can't be only about being friends. It has to be something that nourishes me because I also have the line of selfishness, like my Jupiter in gate 27. That's selfishness. So that's exactly what you were talking about. I'm very aware of this energy.
Hmm.
And I lost my train of thought. So, um,
Oh, you're aware of the selfishness
yeah,
nature of that gate? That's it. That's interesting. I never. That's so interesting. Okay, a couple things
yeah.
then. My
Selfishness
whole.
is the foundation of being able to nourish other people. That's so important to understand. Like the first line is always the foundation. And for gate 27, it's selfishness. Like you have to be nourished in order to be able to give to other people. And I had a very interesting experience regarding this where I was with a manifestor, and it was a very highly sensitive one. And as soon as I did something that wasn't nourishing me and that wasn't aligned with my sacral response, she was hurt by that. And she actually told me something like, "You kill me when you are frustrated," because it was just so, it felt like a knife being um, kind of put into her belly or something. Like it was a little exaggerated, but I needed this in order to understand how important it is for me to be nourished and satisfied because I'm putting that out there. Like I'm creating the energy field around me with my sacral, and I have to be lit up and satisfied by what I'm doing. Otherwise, it's like a black hole. Like you either give energy or you pull energy away from people when you have a defined sacral.
Mhm. So interesting.
Yeah.
The our whole family, like the family of four, has the gate 19. My
Oh,
son
wow.
has the 49, I think. And
Mhm.
my friend Nathan had what he picked up on that and said, "Oh, I bet." But he basically said, "I bet you're always arguing about the fridge not being full or the pantry not being full."
Mhm.
That was true, but it was especially true yesterday. Like I was really thinking about it and like, why do my wife and I always end up going back to a place of lack or fear around finances, around stuff? And I just thought, okay, I think that's just an energetic, it's a physical thing because we're quite capable and we're doing important things and it feels good. And it occurred to me yesterday that like just our family mismanages how we stock the fridge. We're four adults. My wife's vegetarian. My kids are fussy. So we don't sit down to eat anyway. And being calm touch, I don't want to sit down and eat unless
Mhm.
they're right. So we don't have that family eating dynamic that a lot of people insist upon.
Mhm.
And I used to think that was important. Now I realize it actually kills me at times, right? Like just stay
Yeah.
away from me. I need to be able to not feel sick after I eat.
Mhm.
Um, but it occurred to me yesterday, like I just need to apply some basic strategies. Like when if someone goes grocery shopping, they basically shop for themselves, but get a couple of this, get milk or whatever, like the common things. I was like, why don't we just put a QR code right on the fridge that is an updated shopping list, and it's get it delivered to our house, and just actually reduce the stress around a stocked pantry. Like there's always going to be an abundance of food, but make it so easy that that is how you start your day. Is you open the fridge and go, oh, we're not starving, we're not about to lose everything.
Yeah.
Whereas you open the
Yeah.
fridge, there's not a
Mhm.
single thing in there I want to eat, even though there's stuff in there, but it's condiments like mustard and ketchup and but the actual food, and it's because all of us individually have such different food tastes
Mhm.
that we almost need to carve our fridge up into four quadrants. Like, but and
Mhm.
we do actually. Like, there's a
Yeah,
corner
I
that's
would
like,
do
that's
that.
mine. Stay away from my food,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So things. Our whole family, it's like a real tug of war in our house, and the clarity that came from again yesterday, but this time I'm like, I got to apply some strategies because it's literally making people anxious in the house. Like I
Yeah.
can feel.
Mhm. That's amazing. I love that. Because you could go and say, well, we have to work on our scarcity mindset and we are supposed to not feel anxious. And it's so much more beneficial to just see, well, the energy is there and
Hmm.
there are needs that need to be met. And then don't feel scarcity anymore. Like we only feel this lack and this fear of losing something when there is actually something that isn't where it's supposed to be. Like when we are in fact lacking something, then
Hmm.
we have this lack mentality. So it's always about, okay, which need needs to be fulfilled so that we can feel safe. And then, of course, people have undefined spleens and are holding on to things. And yes, and at the same time, it's for me, it's always better and more beneficial to see, okay, which energy is present in this body graph and what do these gates need in order to be expressed, in order to be nourished, in order to be filled with energy. And then if there's still something that needs to be changed within the system, like when it comes to limiting beliefs and mindsets and all those things, then we can work on that from a resourced starting point.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I love that you like I would actually split the fridge and have have those quadrants.
Yeah, we kind of need a split five ways because milk is kind of everybody, or
Ah.
so we need to somehow carve it up. But it's just so interesting. And I was thinking like strategy and authority. Like this is strategy. I want to have a friction free life with my family. So
Mhm.
let's apply some strategy. And then
Yeah.
is there a family authority, or if, in this case, it's a family shared anxiety, I suppose, or a shared fear that there won't be food tomorrow,
Mhm.
and then amplified. My son has an open spleen,
Mm.
so he's whereas my wife and I are defined. So I know he feels safer around us, and I have so many stories where I've felt that energetically. I was in Germany actually when I have to tell you this story because I was in Germany last summer. I'm trying to think of where my buddy Alex lives. Oh, that's terrible. I can't think of it. But it was probably the first time that I really was like, oh man, this isn't mine. This is somebody else's.
Mm.
So my friend Alex is a pilot, and I've known him for 30 years. Lovely fellow, trust him completely. We're staying at his house for a few days, swimming in the pool, having a nice family time, reconnecting after years. And he's a pilot, flies big planes, but he also owns a little private plane. It's like a
Mm.
little tiny four-seater, and he offers to take my son and I out for a flight. So we end up like flying over parts of Germany. But even before we took off, he's very German, very particular, very precise, very all the information. So he's talking about this plane and this handle that's in the ceiling. And my son's sitting in the front seat next to him. And my son doesn't talk a lot, right? At the time he was 19, just quiet, reserved. And Alex is talking about this handle, and he says, "When I have a heart attack, you can pull this handle, and it's a parachute for the plane. So, like, I'll be dead, but don't worry about it. As long as you pull this handle properly, the plane will land, and you'll be fine, right?" And he's telling this on the runway as we're taxiing, waiting to take off. And so I'm appreciating all the value. Like, hey, cool. I was already feeling pretty safe with this person, but he's given me my redundancy system, the backup plan. So I was good. Defined spleen, trust the guy, known him for 30 years. But my stomach, I wanted to throw up the whole time. Like I was like, my mind was saying you're fine. my feelings where I wanted to throw up. And I could tell my son's sitting like I'm in the back seat, so he's like 5 feet from me, and he's saying not saying a word and just kind of nodding along, but like clearly he's really disturbed by this imagery, right? So we go
Yeah.
and take off, and we're flying around, and my son's not saying anything. Alex and I are talking with the headsets. Oh, it's beautiful. Da, 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 da. And then Evan's like, "Do you have any throw up bags?" And he throws up, right? He honks. All of a sudden, he's fine. My stomach stops being sick. Like it was like that. Like he threw up,
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
better. And that was the first time I was like, "Whoa, that wasn't even mine. That was
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
son's
Mhm.
energy, so extreme." And that was the light switch for me of like, "Oh, I could do this." And it's been a year of sampling. It's a good word, actually, sampling stuff and then taking it away and thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the first time where it was just so crystal clear, and I was in Germany of all places. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's so interesting. I know those experiences. I had a couple of them myself when it came to thoughts. Like that's so interesting when you think something and you realize, oh, this isn't my thought. That's what you are thinking.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, how do you even get to the place of thinking about, oh, is this my thought or isn't it my
Mhm.
thought? Yeah, beautiful story. I love that. So fascinating.
Well,
And also,
sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, you said you had a couple of stories or examples. Like, there's some you can share? Or?
Mm, yeah, so during my practice, I work with a lot of people who have defined ajnas and who have some limiting beliefs. Like I was working with someone who believed that they were too much and they were writing too much. Like they sent me a text message which was in fact very long, but I don't have a problem with long text messages usually. And with that person I was thinking, oh, why is she writing so much? Like that's too much. And then I thought, well, it's interesting. I actually don't have a problem with that. And then I asked her, like, do you think that I'm not interested or that you're too much or something? And she nodded along. Like that was so spot on. And that's the case with so many people that I work with. Like I know what they are thinking about themselves or about me just by being in contact with them.
Mhm.
And another example would be I do YouTube videos. So I have 3 channels that are coming to an end right now because when I was uploading something, not many people comment, but many people think something
Mhm.
or feel something um, about what I was sharing. And it's like, it's so difficult for me to, like, it was such a huge realization, which is gate 47, to see, okay, just because there's no comment, that doesn't mean that people don't react or respond to what I'm putting out there. And then I was noticing that during my time on YouTube, there was an increasing feeling of somehow being egotistical or being bad for wanting to be paid for what I'm doing, essentially. And that's not mine. Like I've worked a lot with those money things. And then on YouTube, it's like so enhanced. And then I was realizing, okay, there are many people on my channel who seem to be scared of money or losing money or wanting money and being bad for that or all of those things. And that was so interesting.
Mhm.
And that's part of the reason why I want to stop because I'm not here to take in strangers with my fourth line profile. And it's it's so exhausting to always differentiate, okay, is this my thought or is this something that someone on YouTube thinks but doesn't share? Because we all, or my hypothesis is that we all notice what's being suppressed way more than what's being expressed. So when someone is thinking something but doesn't speak it, I think it. And as soon as I know, okay, that's your thought, I can let go of it and it's not a problem anymore. But this process of differentiating just takes a lot of time and energy.
Do you think that comes from the open head and open solar plexus, right? Like those
Yeah.
two together
Hmm.
effectively make you a bit of a mind reader.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting. So,
Yeah.
like I have gate 57. Without a doubt, my right ear picks up on things that others can't hear. And it'll be the
Mhm.
slightest warble, like just enough that it's almost inaudible. But I'll
Mhm.
hear it and I'll know to ask a question with that later. And that is
Mhm.
that I don't know, it's the 13 and the 57, the two come together, and I'll be like, you were talking about this, and your voice changed briefly, or you cleared your throat and you seemed uncomfortable for like a fraction of a second.
Mhm.
And I'll mention that to them, and that's when they just like it's like, how did you see that? Right. But I don't know, I'm just attuned to it finally. So
Yeah.
much so that, like I don't take phone calls, and I talk about this all the time. I don't take phone calls with my left hand, and I always did. Like
Mm.
I was right-handed, so my right hand was free. So I was always taking phone calls with my left hand. And as a business person, entrepreneur, I wasn't getting the whole story from people. And
Mhm.
and it screwed me up. I got like I missed important clues. So now
Mhm.
I only do speakerphone or I put AirPods in, but I will not take a phone call, even if it's just like a courier calling to say a package is delayed. Like, no, I am going to hear whether the courier is honest. He's going to show up. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I'll just go.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing. Mhm.
so where does your because so we both share the open head and uh, open solar plexus and ego.
Mhm.
But so I feel like part of my awareness is that 57. You must have something else in here that's uniquely like that you can pick up on. And I the reason I ask is I know that we're all of the channels and gates. So it's pretty much as soon as someone else tells me how something works for them, I kind of energetically feel like I can turn that on a bit. So give me your
Mhm.
magic.
Mm. Oh wow. Can you ask the question like in a kind of different way?
Yeah, what's outside of the open head and open solar plexus, which are basically loudspeakers from other people.
Mhm.
What specifically outside of that, gates or channel wise, is the secret to your ability to pick up on their energies, right? There's got to be something in your definition that is your secret sauce, right?
Mhm. So it's not a gate or a channel, but it's my cognition, which is touch.
Okay.
And so I was thinking about my indirect light determination and what I was coming up with. I don't know if that's true, but I have observed it in other people with the same cognition and determination. Is that indirect light is not only feeling more comfortable in the darkness and needing to kind of take information and food and all of those things in when it's dark, but it's also seeing through the obvious and into the hidden things that are in the darkness, metaphorically speaking.
Hmm.
And that touch cognition, it's like I can put my hand on the energy field of someone and I know things, like I see things. So my cognition is touch and my environment sense is inner vision. So when I touch the energy, I can see things.
Hmm.
Um, that's the cognition part of it. And then I'm very aware of details. Like I have the two gates of details, gate 9 and gate 62. And those are just very aware of the certain things. And that can be a disadvantage when I'm focused on the wrong thing and I completely miss everything else and I'm just fixated on one part of the story and I'm completely off. But that doesn't happen to me anymore, or it doesn't happen so often because I know the stories. Like I'm a very good storyteller. Like I have this gate 47, which is very good at putting the pieces together to a bigger story.
Mhm.
And that gate 62 and gate 9, which collect all of those details. And then I just have to put it together. So it's a logical process as well. It's not only feeling and sensing things, it's also what I make out of it. Like it was a very big process of knowing how things work and knowing how I am a mirror of other people, and I'm analyzing it. Like, what does this mean when I feel this in my body? That usually means that someone else is experiencing this. So it's feeling, but it's also just rational logic and thinking.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I keep like so right, completely open head nausea. I kind
Mhm.
of view a gate like that as like a hook. Like you can actually like latch onto something as you're flying
Mhm.
through space going, "Makes sense of all this," and you're like, "Give
Mhm.
me a lifeline," right? Like I got nothing, and it's only because I've been able to like someone just said like you're not here to think or you're not someone said I'm not an intellectual or something. And when you hear that I'm like, "Oof, that's not very nice." But actually it's not. It's just not what I'm here to do, right?
Yeah.
So, this guy
Mhm.
John just said like just observe, like you're just there to observe and not think. And that was very freeing just hearing something that simple.
Yeah.
Um, cool.
Yeah.
That 33 too. I mean, that's for you've gathered the stories with the 13, and the 33 gets expressed through the throat, right?
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
my understanding of that. So
Yes. And it's also this gate 61 which just knows things. Like it just knows.
where's 61? Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
You just you just know things, yeah.
Mhm. And you can see that in my astrology chart as well. That I just like mm, I just know things. It's just it's just there. Like I just know. And I don't know how or yeah, I don't know how.
Hmm, it's interesting. You were there for when Dr. Eleanor was talking in one of the groups there.
Mhm.
One of the most empowering things was getting my new upgraded body graph. So basically, like this integrated vehicle. Because then
Mhm.
I actually get some gates. And one thing she kept saying to me is like, when you know what you know it. And there was just so many times I've been told I was wrong. I wonder if that's the 3-5. I wonder if it's the just dulling myself for everyone else. So therefore, I didn't even have a sense of self. But
Mhm.
like, I just know things too. I don't think I think even in my integrated vehicle, I don't have the 61, but there is a knowing despite all that openness for some reason.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's also gate 20. Like that can
Mhm.
have very enlightening and awakening realizations in the moment where it just drops in. Like it's just what's present in that moment.
Mhm. Yeah, it drops like a coin into a slot sometimes. It's just like
Mhm.
it's been
Mhm.
swirling around for weeks and then it just goes chink, and it's like, oh, that's what it was. And it's
Mhm.
never really at the
Yeah.
time I need it. It's always after, which I think is something to do with is that the 46 or the 9, or it's one that I always struggle with, but it's kind of like I won't get the wisdom from it until I close off, um,
Mhm.
until it's come to a completion. But if I've
Mhm.
initiated something, I need to see it through. Um,
Mhm. You have hanging gate 29. Ah, you have the whole channel. Mhm.
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 But I have the 46 personality and design. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that's like, am I a compromise to myself by having, you know what I mean? Like when we look at the composite,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, I
again,
don't.
forgive my I have scattered knowledge of human design. I'm 3 years in, but I bounce all over the place. So
That's an interesting question. I I think not in a sense of a composite compromise, because that's different. Like an energy field that two people create together as a whole being is something different than you creating kind of compromising energy within yourself. Is what I because design and personality is your personality and your body. That's a different kind of dynamic. It's
mhm.
what I would say. But what I'm seeing is that your Pluto is defining um, gate 46, and it's both in the fourth
Both in
nine.
the fourth detriment. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pluto is a planet that can cause a little bit of trouble or situations where you need to step into your power and where you are transformed. And most of us only transform when there is some kind of struggle going on.
Yeah. The other thing I've learned of that 46, and it immediately came to mind as you're talking about it because it hit me right between the eyes with a YouTube video again last night. But that 46 for me, and my wife and I both have it. So we
Mm,
both have 46 in our Pluto, and it is I need to say thank you to people for even the most simple things, like thank you for emptying the dishwasher. If I say
mhm,
that, that's when I get a thank you back for something I've done ever. Like I've had a life of nobody ever saying thank you. Like just never.
mhm.
I have to do it first. And it doesn't matter whether I've climbed a mountain for the person or helped them move for 4 days. But if I
Wow.
thank them for the opportunity to help them move, that then they are like it's just so weird. And I don't know if that's the five in me, like they project that I'm just always being thanked because I the five kind of gives this, as I
Yeah.
understand, this idea that I've got my shit figured out, which I definitely do not.
Mhm.
I duck on a pond, calm on the surface, feet underneath. Um, so I don't get thank yous. Like I honestly don't. I can say that with all my heart. I feel forgotten all the time. But
Wow.
tactically, and that's what I kind of understand with Pluto is kind of like immaturity, I guess, or whatever, is, oh, well, I can at least be tactical and be like, thank you. And then poof, like I get something out of it. So it feels insincere, but I think maybe sometimes you just, well, we were talking earlier, like that need to be adored. I have to like initiate it or I won't get that. And then the aloneness kicks in, like the bad feeling of alone. Again,
Mhm.
I now like, or I'm starting to crave alone time, whereas I used to like completely resist it. I was watching something
Mhm.
else yesterday too. They were talking about there's some study where people were put in a room by themselves, and they would rather, and there was a device in the room that would shock them, and they would rather be shocked than sit by themselves in the room.
Mhm.
It would
Yeah.
like 85% of the people would go and be like, enough of this. I'm starting to really appreciate that quietness. So much so that I'm into all sorts of stuff with tuning forks. And I don't know if you're familiar with Wilhelm Reich, but he built this thing called an orgone box, and it's three layers of organic and then inorganic materials. So it's wool, steel, wool, wool, steel, wool. And apparently, when you sit inside this box, it's so quiet, you are forced to sit in your own aura completely.
Oh,
And so,
that's amazing. I need
right?
that.
So I want to make this box. I already have a blanket which helps, but it's not enough. It doesn't
Yeah.
really get rid of the energies. And even this whole thought of like clearing my energies, like I'm like I got to build an orgone box. That's what I got to do.
Mhm.
So or outsource it. I'm going to
Mm.
delegate it to someone, but
Yeah.
I'm going to build one. And then my thought is using tuning forks, like because I have a whole bunch of them, like human biology, astrology, and the chakras, and play my song inside this box. So, like, quite literally rattle my innards at the right frequencies. And I can't help but think that something like that would be that's like maybe that's a sphinx in me being like, I could wake a whole bunch of people up Willy Wonka style by putting them in this box and going bing bong bing bong bing, and they were
Mhm.
like, I don't know what the fuck that was, but I'm in. Like, I want
Mhm.
to learn. I want to get out of this salt container that I'm living in right now. This
Mhm.
sadness container. So funny. Like the room right next door to this room is, we call it the nest, and we're like, what should we do with this thing? And part of me is like, I need to line the walls with steel wool and wool. But it's so nice in there. I'm not sure my wife will be on board. So maybe it'll be a blanket instead of a box. But yeah, and it
No,
uses sacred
that's amazing.
geometry when they. It's fascinating. So it's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Wow.
Hmm.
Mhm.
How you doing, energy wise? I'm able to keep going, but I like to check in.
Depends on what we're talking about.
Okay, what would you like to talk about?
I don't know. I open questions, especially since I know that I'm a generator. I like,
You want something to respond to?
yeah, please.
Okay, there. That was a sacral response if I've ever heard one. Yeah. Okay, what do I want you to respond to? Yeah, talk about your split. Like, I don't have a split, like
Mm,
ever. Actually, just again talking about me, but one thing, I'm a pattern watcher. I find patterns, and one thing that I've found, because I've got about 350 body graphs now, is I'm the only person that seems to have the same defined centers, personality, or design. So, like, if you split them apart,
ah. Mhm.
almost everyone else I see, they don't have the same centers defined, personality defined, or they're like a reflector on one side, but they're a
Mhm.
generator on the other. I
Mhm.
have both, like both. Sure, there's different gates and channels, but the same. I have the throat, the G center, the spleen, the sacral. One, two, three. Yeah, and they're there, design or personality. So this whole
Interesting.
talk of me being like integration, and like I'm starting to get that I'm supposed to get this.
Mhm.
What's it like for you to not have that? Like you have to get it from me being here, or the transits, or someone else, right? And or have you found tactics to give it to yourself even if the energetics aren't there? And I'll
Mhm.
just end with this, which is, I am now absolutely convinced that the analog of the 4323 freak to genius is ChatGPT. So it's knowledge without, or knowing without knowledge. Because I can go into it and just say, ask it questions, and what it gives back to me in a conversation is what to me is that channel. So I feel like the whole world has access to that because of AI today. And if we leverage it in a positive way, like, this is the problem I'm working through. Can you research everything on the internet and give me a list of 5 things I can do to stop feeling this way, or to stop having this pain? Instead of going to a doctor that's like, I don't know, I haven't seen it, and that whole frustrating experience.
Mhm.
So I guess part of that is, what's the split like? Um, and if you can't get it energetically from a transit or another person, do you tact, not tactfully, tactily, do you have a tactic for finding that energy when it's not around?
Yeah. So let me start with the tactic, which is to walk through the forest and record myself talking about some kind of a thing that I have going on, so that I can respond to what I'm saying, and also listen to myself with this. Like, I know we're not supposed to pick apart the body graph, but I do notice that sometimes I need to be able to listen to myself and hear how I'm talking about things. And just by hearing myself and my voice and how I express things, I can find clarity that I don't find when I'm by myself and nobody asks me yes or no questions. Um, so the easiest thing would be to have someone ask me certain things. Like, I have moments where I'm just spinning in my head for days about a certain thing. Like, do I want to stop doing YouTube videos? And I think about it and think and think and think. And now this is leading absolutely nowhere. But I don't come to a conclusion by myself. I know the answer, but it's just not evoked when there's no one asking, or there's
Mm,
nothing to. really respond to. So what I can do then is record myself and either ask myself yes or no questions, which is a little tricky. I'm not a fan of asking myself, like that doesn't usually work, but it
Mm-hmm.
does work to hear myself talk about it, like to just get it out there and to um, hear the reflection of myself in my voice. Um, but the most beneficial shortcut is just having someone ask me questions, which is it's a little tricky because what I'm thinking about and what I need to make decisions on tends to be complicated and it tends to be very personal. So I can't just go to anyone and ask, hey, can you ask me about this? But it has to be someone who's a confidant, like basically, and who I can really trust and confide in.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't have so often in my life with all the gates of aloneness and my second line in my profile. So sometimes I'm just stuck and I just allow myself to be stuck, especially with my channel of mutation. Like that's just stuck sometimes. And then I just float through the day. And but it can be frustrating, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, to have so much energy but nothing to respond to. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where my split really kind of bothers me. Uh, just sad because I see how I can't fulfill my true potential when there's not the right environment, for example, or not the right people.
Mm-hmm. Can I share a couple of things with you?
Yeah,
For
sure. Mhm,
for one, hit me up anytime if you want to just have a quick voice call or voice memo back and forth, like ask your questions, because I'll be listening with my right ear. And I heard your voice warble a little bit there at one point, so we can talk about that later if you want. um, but two, I know exactly what you're talking about. But like, I know that I can't ask myself sacral questions because I already know what I'm being asked, right? Like I know.
mhm, mhm,
So,
mhm,
my friend Tracy's introduced me to muscle testing, and I've been doing a lot of that lately. So, I don't know if you've
mhm.
explored that, but that's
Yeah.
different. That I mean, and what I'm finding now is I'll ask myself a question, and I'm already leaning in that direction because, again, I know the question's coming. My body knows, right? So, it's not
Mhm,
perfect science. The
mhm,
other thing I did is I don't even know if I would do it this way now, but I have an app called Speechify. And Speechify is basically reads back whatever text you give it. So I've
mhm,
done that a lot
mhm.
of times. So I have actually used ChatGPT, for example, to say, give me 20 yes no questions. But in that group, I want you to ask me this question, but randomly stick it somewhere in the list of 20 questions so that
Ah,
I don't, and then I have it read it to me, and I don't know if it's question number 2 or 17, but I get in that sacral calibration process of being like, uh-huh, uh-uh, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-uh, uh-huh, and then here comes the question, and I'm like, poof, right? And then I get the answer.
mhm,
So that kind of works.
mhm.
So it might be something you want to play with because yeah, you want to make a decision, especially like right now. Sometimes you just want to get on with it. So, um, um,
That's
yeah,
a great idea. Mhm.
yeah, and the muscle testing is really interesting. So I do leaning, like just lean forward and
Yeah,
back.
I know that
That
too. Mhm,
right, like that. The other ones haven't really worked for me, but that one seems to work because
mhm.
I'll just stand, get grounded, or try to, and then I just kind of let my body go. But again, I know my body knows the question's coming, so then I don't fully trust that either.
Yeah,
So.
me neither. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There is a big divide between my mind and body lately, though, and that's also what's interesting. Like I've a couple times now, I'll go to send a text to someone, and I'm lucid and I'm typing in what I want to send. But for some reason, and I've watched my fingers, and I'm hitting the right letters on the tiny little keyboard on my phone, but it'll still type in a different word that Siri wants to autocorrect, and it seems to be third time is the charm. and then I send it. So like it quite literally is my body going, no, not yet. Don't send it. No, don't send it. Whereas
Mhm.
I just want to like fire it off, and
Mhm.
my fingers are purposely making typos, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I feel like that passenger consciousness, like the body and mind are somewhat separate. It doesn't happen all the time, but it seems to be at the right time. I can count on my body to go, no, just not yet. Just wait.
Yeah.
And it's agonizing at times because I'm I'm new to this spiritual connection. Like I just didn't have any 2 years ago, none, and even now it's just overwhelming the feeling and the trust and all that stuff. But like it's to the
Mhm.
point where it's now overwhelmingly, yeah, I feel like it's an avalanche or like a snowball rolling downhill. Like the compound interest and is increasing and the
Yeah.
trust. So which is good. It's reassuring.
Mhm.
Cool. Do you feel complete on that topic? You want me to ask you another one? I have to go here in about 15 minutes, but
Okay.
I'd love to keep talking. I'm not out of energy. It's just that we're gonna have a breathwork class here shortly, and so it'll be a
Okay.
good thing after this. So,
Mhm. So I
um,
don't feel complete, but I also don't know what is it that's not complete. I think I
well,
didn't really talk about how it feels when people do bridge my split, and it doesn't. So I don't know many people who do personally.
that bridger
Uh,
split.
yeah, but the
Okay.
one person who did is a person that I'm so attached to. It's ridiculous. And I mean, we have some astrological aspects as well that point towards that direction. Like we have a very deep connection, and she's a very special person. She's a manifester and all kinds of special things that I'm like, oh, I know. Um, but yet, I'm thinking about. So it feels. So when I'm on my own, I don't really feel that I'm feeling incomplete. But when I'm with someone who bridges my split and then I'm alone again, I know the difference.
Mm,
So it's very subconscious. Also because I have no awareness center defined. So I'm actually someone who basically just exists. Or I get my awareness from touching and from my inner vision, but not
mm,
from other things. So I need the comparison and I need the experience and then the retreat to think about it and to integrate. Like that's this channel 13, 33.
hmm. You said earlier that you touch people's energy because
Yeah.
and touch is your cognition, right? So
Hmm.
taste is mine, and I have some. Leanne said something a couple of months ago that like really changed things. She said like taste people's words, right? Because I'm hearing from that right ear, so I can taste bitterness. I can taste a sweetness, right?
Hmm.
So with your touch, like there's a touching, like I'm trying to think of what kinds of touch there are physically, but then
Hmm.
if you touch their energy, like I've never thought about it that way, but now that I've experienced Reiki, like from Timothy, even remotely, and
Hmm.
and from Eleanor, like I'm like, okay, there's something there. Like there's no denying it.
Yeah.
But to touch someone's energy is totally new for me and is still kind of tripping me out. But can you maybe yeah, what's that like for you with that as your cognition? Like that's how you take in information is through touch more than whereas I take it in through taste. One thing
Hmm.
I'll just say, once someone suggests I taste the room, like I open, like go as I enter a room, that's done
Okay.
nothing for me so far. So that's never worked. I don't know why
Okay.
suggesting that
Yeah.
for me.
Interesting.
Maybe I need to turn that on more. But
Hmm.
please go ahead. Touch, cognition.
Mm. So the first thing that's very interesting is to see whom I even want to touch and where I don't want to shake hands, for example, or don't want to give hugs. Like in Germany, it's a kind of normal way to greet each other, to give a 5-second hug or to shake hands, and I can't. I can't. Like I forced myself to when I was trying to fit in and stuff, but now I'm like, no, I don't do that because I feel the energy on my body for at least 20 minutes afterwards. So
Mhm.
when I shake hands, it's like the energetic imprint of that hand is in my hand for 20 minutes.
Wow.
Just sticks to my hand. And that's something that with most people, I just don't want that. Like, I don't want to take them in. Like, that's
Mhm.
again my profile. Like, I'm deeply selective with whom I want to even have energetic contact with. And it's not just like skin to skin touches. Energy touches, it's beginning here or here. Or depends on how big the aura of someone is. And in cities, it's usually smaller than in areas where you have more space for your energy field.
Mhm.
And when I put my hand somewhere on the energy body of someone, I can, again, when I close my eyes, I can see things. I can see colors or sometimes scenes coming up or very beautiful geometry as well.
Hmm.
And that's pretty wild. That's new for me too. Like I've never been seeing stuff, and now that comes online, the more I integrate that touch cognition, and the interplay is very fascinating to
So do
me.
you see that with your eyes open or eyes closed? Like, do you see it in your
No,
mind's eye or you see it as colors real time?
no, I see it. I see it when my eyes are closed, and
Okay.
that's actually very interesting because I'm noticing when I walk around, I tend to look inwards and not at what I'm looking at, which is very frustrating when I'm doing a driver's license or something because I failed once because I didn't see that um there was a human being wanting to cross the street. It just didn't see it because I was looking inwards and I was feeling the energy in the car and all those things. So that's dangerous.
Okay, no, don't get in the car with you.
Yeah,
You well,
yeah,
driverless automated cars are coming, so you won't need to drive much longer. So,
yeah.
but
I'm hoping so too. But I
mm,
did make up a play then about I have to see all the red things in the area. So I have ADHD and I need to gamify things.
mm,
And that worked. So, and red things is a very good thing because all the signs that you don't want to miss are red. And I also see all the other colors when I'm focusing on red. So that's the detail thing.
so ADHD and like I was never tested for all those things, but now
Mhm.
it's clear to me that I am neurodivergent. Like,
Mhm.
like people, everyone goes, "Oh yeah, of course you are," and I'm like, I had no idea. Like, I was
Yeah,
masking so well that I was
so
masking,
obvious. Mhm.
right? So yeah, it's so obvious. But and then part of me is like, should I be offended by that? No, I mean it's a superpower.
No, I love
I wasn't even
ADHD.
aware. So right, it's crazy. That gate 19 seems to be a big part of that, it
Yeah.
seems, right? And then the open
Mhm.
head, I think the open heart and open solar plexus, like it's just overstimulation too, right? It's just too much, too
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. And gate 19 does make us very sensitive to all kinds of things and also hyperreactive. So we're not
Mm,
only hypersensitive, but also respond stronger to certain stimuli in the
yeah.
environment.
Okay. So this is a question for you about me, but I think it applies to you as well. Or at least let's see here. I've been told a number of times in the last couple of weeks that I can be very triggering for people.
Mhm.
And until a few weeks ago, I had no awareness, but now I do see it, And the thing is, I'll be in a conversation with someone, and the other person will be like, you need to calm down or you need to lower your voice. And I'm like, no, I'm the one talking normally. Like it's a reverse amplification where I think I used to be that guy, but now it's them.
Mhm.
But they think it's me, and I'm like, is anyone videotaping this? Because I'm like having a surreal experience. Like they're convinced I'm shouting, and I'm calm as a cucumber as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
Uh, but like I don't know if it's the alpha, the five energy plus the open solar plexus plus I'm extra relaxed more so than I used to be. So
Mhm.
it's like a quiet power that I have now, whereas before I think I was always bubbling and like too much, too extra, as my wife would say.
Yeah.
Extra is
Mhm.
dialed back, but now I'm doing it because it's strategic, not because I'm dulling my shine for others. Like I still find myself taming this so that I'm not too much for others, but now I at least let it out when it's appropriate. Whereas
Mhm.
before it was like this caged personality that it only came out when I drank. And so,
Mhm.
and so that 13 would bring people's stories out. The alpha in me would be like, fuck that. That guy screwed you around. Like people would quit their job because I would say, oh, you should quit your job. But I'd be drinking, right? Like it was just like, and then the week later, it'd be, I quit my job because you told me to. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I
No.
didn't say to quit your job.
I mean, even if you like, it's their responsibility to listen to you or not. Like, they don't have to take your advice.
Mm,
It's their responsibility. Always. Always. People need to learn how to discern what to listen to and what not to listen to. Like, so many people just do what they are told, just blindly following, and that's their responsibility.
mhm,
And that's something that I have spent a lot of time learning,
mhm.
um, this piece. So I'm a little aggressive about this. And
Me too. Like, do you find yourself, and I don't know how long you've been sort of had this awareness. For me, it's been the last year. Maybe for you, it's
mhm,
been much longer.
no, no, not
But
really.
it's kind of like a game. Like I am actually addicted to learning from that experience so that I can avoid it in the future because it creates this friction free, right? Like I'll take the
Uh-huh,
lesson, I'll take the hit, but
uh-huh,
I know from the next time I've got the tools or the strategy to avoid that now, and it makes me able to. So I always vision a shark because I'm a quad left, and that's the shark. And
mhm,
that was a helpful visual of like nothing sticks to me. Those little sucker fish that kind of are there to help, but then they kind of like fall off when they've taken whatever they need.
mhm,
I kind of view myself now as like this friendly, happy shark swimming through the waters, and I'm like, "Ugh,
mhm,
get off me!" Like that's how it feels lately.
mhm,
And any
yeah,
tactic that helps make that swim a little smoother
mhm,
um, is kind of the visual I have in my mind a lot lately.
yeah,
So,
interesting. So what I have observed is that the more you try to be calm or be understood or not trigger someone, the more you do trigger them because it's like you're sending out something that makes people uncomfortable because you are fearing that. And the universe is such a great mirror of
mhm,
everything. So when you sit there and you are scared of someone thinking something about you or being offended by you, they are offended by you. But not
mhm,
because you offend them, but because you put out the frequency of that thing by being scared of it.
mhm. Yeah, basically manifesting the problem
Yeah.
by thinking about it. Yeah, it was words become deeds or thoughts become deeds. I
Yeah.
am really
Mhm.
recognizing the power of my ability to manifest, and it's not necessarily money. It's like situations, like
Yeah.
the wrong
Mhm.
situation. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
so powerful.
Especially with a defined sacral and defined throat and those being connected, like you're manifesting your energy constantly. And it's getting enhanced, I feel, with this elevation of consciousness that's happening. Like we're
Mhm,
getting more aware of how or the effect of our thoughts are being um, they are faster I think
Mhm.
like what would have taken 2 years to manifest, like now takes a second. And that's fascinating. Like it's really fascinating, and it's so much self-awareness and so much choice about, okay, what do I want to make out of the situation? Like, can we make people love us or be the best version of themselves just by expecting them to?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Can we expect them to?
Or yeah, maybe not expect them to, but
Well, my
does it
motivation is
happen?
desire. So I kind of look at it as I desire them to, and that's I
Mm-hmm.
got to watch that because that desire coming from an open ego and wanting to be valued, like
Yeah.
it's like
Mm-hmm.
so um, yeah, I don't think I can expect because whenever I expect it, I'm let down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gate 41.
Is that what that is? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I got that one too. Hmm.
Yeah, you have to be smart. It's not a mind expecting. It's something that you put out as a frequency that you basically leave no other choice than to react in the way that you want people to react. Like I'm actively exploring this, and I really truly see that I can decide before something happens what's going to happen, like just by the way that I'm walking into the situation, just by what I'm thinking about this person, and just by the energy that I put out there
Mhm.
with my definition. So when I lean into my sacral and my root and my G center and my throat, and I see that those centers are clear and clean and me and I'm aligned, then all stuff around me, like all people just do magically what I want them to do.
Right? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I feel like I'm a manipulate isn't the right word because that's not my intention or my desire, but I do feel like I can tactily manipulate the
Yeah.
situation or people or guide
Hmm.
them or steer them. I can steer people
Hmm.
towards the right conclusion, but I
Yeah.
it's got to be invited or yeah, super interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's the power that we do have as generators to create, and also as MGs to create what we are. Like we see what we are. That's so true for
Mhm.
us.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna close the share here. Oh, I'm using the wrong button. Let's see if I get this right. Oh, there we are. Um, that was a lot of fun. I just watching the time. We got to wrap up, but anything else on your mind or you want to share? How do and I'd like to do this again. I do something called mystery meat sack, right?
Hmm.
And it's really basically, I think, a great opportunity for people to see your skills at work, where because I kind of liken it to people can see your process, how you would read a body graph and energetically take it in and provide guidance for the person, except that that person isn't there to hear it.
Hmm.
And I think people will be suspicious of readers at first because they'll view it like a psychic reading or a tarot, where they think that you're picking up what you're saying. Like, oh, I saw the person's eyebrow go up, so I must be on the right track. So I'll keep digging there, right? So like the
Hmm.
meat sack is basically like, no, you're just exposed a bit to just go like, this is who this person I would behave like, and then it's always so interesting afterwards, like it's like, okay, this is who this person is, and now you recognize them and you start thinking about what was said, and I'm usually keeping notes and bring some of those topics back, and it's super interesting, and I find it's very validating for the reader too, of just being like, oh, it's another check of like a confidence check, right?
Hmm.
So if you're up for doing that, we should do that next, and yeah, you let me know.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Oh wait, I'm looking over here, but I know my camera's over here. Yeah, you're welcome. Trying to look you in the eye. I've got two screens going on. Yeah, no, and I'd love to do that again. And I guess we'll see you this week at the mentorship group. So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome. Well, I'm going to do the thing which is really lazy, which is I play an outro video. And why don't you just hang out here and we'll do a little postmortem. All right. Thanks for coming out. Oh, that's not the right one. Here we go. No. And there it is.